like it'll be a quick and to the point meeting since it's just me and you. So.
How you doing, Chuck? How you feeling?
How you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Good, good.
How's the weather in San Diego?
It's San Diego, right? It's beautiful like always.
That's what I heard. Let me know later, Chuck, if you have any ideas or comments that...
Sorry, Ray, I know that you're talking, but we're working on something technical on our end, so we can't hear you.
Give us just a minute.
Some technology with the TV feed and sound.
I know I saw a blurb at the bottom that says something about AI. Is that correct? I guess not.
Chuck, can you?
Everybody, we're just having a little bit of a technical difficulty. If you can give us just a minute, PCTV is making a call, so hang on, please.
Video.
Yeah, I unmuted the Zoom.
Yeah, unmute your video. Okay, now what's the camera that's selected?
Camera? Oh, OBS camera.
No, not OBS camera. That's supposed to be AV Matrix.
I don't see it though.
Your AV Matrix, is that connected to this computer?
Oh shit, I think I connected to the wrong computer. Shit.
Your AV Matrix needs to be connected to your Zoom computer always.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you run the cable long enough to reach your camera?
What was triple plexus? Don't know that, Brian.
Special variety of hand express.
Tiny, tiny.
Gosh.
Okay. Okay. Some Zoom here.
I'm excited about that.
I'm just like, sure. I mean, they're going to the next room.
I thought it was great. I'd like to talk. I showed it to you.
Like the whole plant.
You know, vegetation stuff, just overall. I think the one that we have over there, the ones that are on, when they're on Facebook, we're done with the one that's down at, it's the now posted down from the front.
Yeah, I can do it all, but you might.
Everybody, we're sorry. PCTV is having to do a slightly different connection, so give us just a minute, please.
The plan in there was the one we gave the whole array. So that's perfect. There been some.
But all I really want is overall thing, so.
There you go.
Showing it to people. Like, you know, now I'm going to one of those also.
Okay, you're up now. Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, there's a group of it now.
Now it's
Like
like,
it, so I can say, well, this doesn't go here anymore. This.
Yeah, that plan bigger.
Can I pick one up?
Yeah, well,
All right, I think we're good now.
Or hope she'll be able to print one. She should. The PDF should be.
can we check our sound though? Can Chuck or somebody speak, please?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I know we're not. I can hear you all.
We should be
I agree.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear us?
Miramar.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You want this?
Thumbs up if you can hear us. You
Oh,
can't
see you
and hear you.
change the speaker. I agree.
This is Ray.
100%.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Good.
We want this muted.
Can see you and hear you.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. Now we're good? Okay. Yeah. All right, I'll start over. Sorry for the technical delay. Welcome everybody to the Granada Community Services District Board of Directors meeting, regular meeting at 7 p.m. Thursday, October 19th, 2023. Calling the meeting at 7:10. And we have a roll call, please.
Director Randall?
Here.
Director Clark?
Here.
Director Dye?
Here.
Chair Marsh?
Here.
Also in attendance, Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore.
Jill
Grant here.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, Jill. Director Grant.
Here.
Okay, and also in attendance, we have General Manager Chuck Duffy, Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore, and we also have Legal Counsel Antoinette Rannett.
Welcome, Antoinette. Yes. Okay, before we get started with the agenda, we have general public participation. General public members may comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda. Comments limited to 3 minutes. And please raise your hand if you would like to comment on it not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move forward. The regular meeting agenda, first item is parks and recreation activity. We have a report on Granada Community Park and Recreation Center, 2 items, 3D renderings from Kuching Panko Design Group, and then we have a proposal for Townsend to help with grants. But I'll start with Shall I introduce you with Ray? Do we start with Ray? Ray, do you want to queue up?
Absolutely. Director Marsh, thank you very much for the introduction. I just want to give you a quick update on where we stand on the project. And then we continue on with this, the great presentation that Tom Conroy of Kikuchi Associates has prepared for us. First of all, we are in the process of proceeding with the initial study and the environmental clearance for the project. We have received the biological report in the draft form, and I'm happy to report that we do not have any significant impacts in terms of the biology of the area, and that's great news. So that is complete, and we are doing the final review at the moment, but we're going to proceed with the next studies, which is the cultural, and that one is in progress. We have not found anything out of the ordinary, and but we have not completed the report yet. They are still reviewing some research information. We have not received any special requests from the tribes that we have contacted. So we will have a report for you, hopefully at the next meeting on the cultural report. The next one, study on the way is a noise study, and that is starting soon. We have the specialist under contract soon to proceed. We were kind of going back and forth on the amount of activities that we were expecting in both the rec center and the park. So I think we have now agreed on the amount of activity we expect to have. So we are proceeding with the noise study for the surrounding area for before and after. We're going to create a baseline, and then we got to superimpose the activities, and then we're going to prepare the report accordingly. The next two items that Tom Conroy of Kikuchi Associates will present, and I am very impressed with the work that Tom has done creating the artist renderings. If you recall, we were looking to have these renderings in order to support the grant application, which is very crucial. Tom has created different birds views of directional sites for both the park and the rec center, and as well as looking at the addition of the kiosk library. We have three options for you for the kiosk, and we hope to get comments back from you. One is in the vicinity of the rec center, and two in the vicinity around the area of the park. So we hope to get feedback for you on that one. And then finally, we're going to proceed with Townsend. We have Alex Gibbs joining us for a bit of a talk and short presentation on what Townsend Public Relations does, and the proposal to help us with the grants. Thank you, Director Marsh, for directing us to contact them. I have worked with Alex in several proposals, and they've been successful in helping us secure funding for those. We had several meetings with Alex regarding this, the Granada project, and I'm happy to say that we are ready to proceed at your discretion. So with that, I want to hand it over to Tom and the artist rendering and the kiosk for the library.
Thank you, Ray. And I realized I didn't properly introduce you. Ray Rizami is our project manager for the Park and Recreation Center. And of course, Tom has been working with us for 5 years. So welcome, Tom Conroy from Kikuchi. Okay.
Thanks, Nancy. I'm going to share my screen here so that everybody in the room can see a big screen, and everybody on Zoom can see whatever screen they have in front of them. As Ray said a couple of months ago, he asked us to develop a series of renderings for broad overviews of the park to use both for the upcoming grant applications as well as for potential communication purposes, local purposes, that sort of stuff. we developed a rudimentary model, into a three-dimensional model that laid out the broad parameters of the park. We had actually developed one a few years ago, so we were able to update that model based on all the changes, to reflect all the changes that have happened over the last couple of years. And with Ray's guidance, we selected 3 different aerial views that we then merged with aerial photography taken just a couple of weeks ago from a drone that flew over the site, and which has led to the renderings that you have in front of you. Because this is a 3D model, it's a living entity. It's not static shots. So after we developed these aerial views, we were able to get down on the ground level and put together some views that really may not be great for broad overview communication purposes, but they really communicate a lot on the ground level of what the park is going to feel like, or what different aspects of the park are going to feel like. And it just so happened that having this model made it really easy to put in the visualizations for the library kiosk to give everybody a good impression of what those might look like. So it all worked out pretty well. The image that we have up on the board right now is the first image that we developed with Ray. This is an aerial view looking over the most active sections of the park. The grove of eucalyptus trees is just to the camera's left. So you can see the active play lawn and the basketball court in the foregrounds, the play and picnic area in the middle, and then the parking lot and restroom behind that, and even beyond that, you can see a glimpse of the built-in passive lawn that's in the place of the current gravel parking lot. Zoom in a little bit closer for the second shot. This is just at the foot of Portola, looking back north. So this is the current drainage, or you can see the drainage that happens right along here. This is done to really illustrate the regrading and rehabilitation that has been proposed for the current ditch that extends from the foot of Avenue Portola. You'll note the bridge that we have spanning the renovated ditch, as well as some potential for interpretive signage and a much nicer appearing ditch that is out there right now. In the middle ground, you can see the parking lot and the restroom, and in the far background, you can see the Granada Community Center. Finally, we went back up this line and turned around, so you can see here, this is looking south from above the new community room. You can see the roof of the Granada Community Center and the parking lot right there. This is looking down over the path of grassland area on the north. You can get a good overview of the decomposed granite path that extends through the park, as well as the taller vegetation on the built-up mounds on the perimeter of that of the passive grasslands area to help protect from westerly winds and to carve out some nice picnic areas and provide a little bit of protection for the passive grasslands. So now from here, I think you really get a good overview of the park, but it doesn't really give you a sense of what being on the park might feel like. So dropping down to the path right here in front of the community center and looking out over the path of grasslands, you get a better sense of what it will feel like to be in the park. This kind of unkempt, restored meadow area with picnic areas on the side. On the right, you can see got some folks enjoying the picnic areas, the existing eucalyptus grove in the back, and in the far distance, you can see the curve of the Half Moon Bay. Moving into the middle of the park, we're now standing on the bridge that separates the parking lot and restroom with the picnic area. This is looking towards the picnic area with the play structure, the play areas beyond that. And in the far distance, you can see the silhouette of the community center, as well as Highway 1 in the background and Eucalyptus Grove on the right. Finally, what we're hoping to have are people here taking pictures of a renovated drainage ditch on a beautiful day as the sun is setting. Again, this level of detail, this level of intimacy, we really can't get from those aerial shots. Those aerial shots would be great to provide a broad overview of the project, but we thought some of these shots would be helpful for you to see as well. So any questions on these before I bounce to the library? Yes.
Looks fantastic. So good.
How wide is the bridge over the drainage?
We have two bridges. Each of them are currently 12 feet wide.
Looks bigger than that.
I will tell you, it is very tricky to navigate the field of view and depth on a handheld camera, a drone camera, as well as rendering software. So we did our best. I wouldn't scale these for accuracy.
I just before, so I don't forget it. These are beautiful and would need an update to the park information on the website. It would be great for those who are accessible without having to watch the video.
Absolutely, yeah. I can have your projects.
On number 2, would it be possible to show some willows in that drainage? Because that's what it's going to be. Whether we want them or not, there can be willow, which is good.
We can.
That's what every drainage on the coast side has willows, because they just come. They come.
Yeah.
I can't promise you that the actual rendering object will be a willow, but we can put something in there that is the appearance of a willow.
I figured you could. I don't care at all. I mean, my point is, I do think.
But generally, taller vegetation.
Just right along the stream is all, just because that's what's there now. And I don't want it to look like we took out the natural vegetation and replaced it with something else. So if you put something that just shows that there's something different, sure, I think that'd be great. Because that is an important part of it. It looks so good.
I think it was at your last meeting, you directed us to move forward with developing alternatives for the library kiosk. And I can, but I don't want to get into the specifics of the kiosk. I think that's covered at your last meeting, but generally it's an 11 by 22 foot structure with glass walls and a vending machine that's 7.5 feet tall and 14 feet long and about 60 feet. We received that model from before, which was really awesome. And on the plan, we looked at an initial 8 or 9 really quick approaches to where this can be on the site. And we're navigating several different factors when we went to place this. One is the structure setback, which is 50 feet from both Obispo, the property line along Obispo Road, as well as from the property line along Highway 1. So that does give us a pretty narrow area in which we can place this. Now, technically, we don't really know what the county will consider this. It's not a building. There may be ways to navigate through that if we wanted it closer. But the closer you get to the road, the bigger the structure appears, and the more potential for a relatively large vending machine with a significant canopy to impact the views. Mm-hmm. And so after looking at all of these, I'm sorry, we also have a minimum 50-foot setback from the riparian vegetation along the Vernon Creek drainage. So with these constraints, we discussed with Ray, and we narrowed it down to these 2 or 3 options for potential locations. The first one you have in front of you is locating this kiosk somewhere in the vicinity of the new community center. I'm sure it's just because the same architect developed both models, but they have some very similar design cues, which we thought worked well together. It is a big unit, and it will make a significant impact on the overall impression of the community center. But from being on the site, access from the community, access from people driving by, it seems like a realistic alternative to place it in that location. You can see there's a site plan in the top left. I can zoom in here. I think it can.
So Tom, on this one, it would go right here.
It would be, they're separate models, but it would go, yeah.
I know, but I'm asking if, I looked at the map here, and I'm asking if on this plan, it would go in here.
No, it would not. It would go, the front of the cast would essentially be in the same plane as the face of the community center.
So down here, somewhere.
Right.
Or down in here, maybe?
So on the screen, we have a plan view of where that might be located.
I know, I'm just trying to picture it and see who's right across the street from it. So right in here then, somewhere.
From what I can tell from here, yes, that's the area. There's a wall on the site plan that blocks the visibility from the parking lot to the clubroom patio. And we would use that wall, integrate that wall into the back of the kiosk.
Thank you.
The other location, we have 2 alternatives for the second location. And both of those are in the plaza that is in the center of the park, the main parking lot plaza, next to the restroom. So on this one, I zoom in here. You can see the current plan ghosted underneath. So we've shifted the restroom slightly towards the street, but still within our 50 or outside of the 50-foot setback to make room for an expansion of the paving on the ocean side, where that kiosk would be located, potentially with some benches or room for tables. And you can see what that looks like here from the parking lot. Now, please don't feel that the restroom facility that we're showing is what it's going to look like. It's just a placeholder. So there's a lot of opportunity for change, but the overall size of that structure will be about that. And so the library kiosk we tuck in just behind that. Locating it here, as well as locating the kiosk near the community center, is more convenient for the internet and electrical requirements for the structure. The one advantage, one of the main advantages of locating behind the restroom is that from Obispo Road, so this view right here is standing essentially at where the narrow drainage starts, looking out to the ocean. It is essentially hidden from view. So we're not extending the potential interference with ocean views. I do want to caution you that we didn't spend a lot of time putting in the literal backgrounds for these. So this is fresh off the rendering software. Highway 1 is actually a bit higher. It would probably run right about here. So you're not gazing off into the horizon from Obispo Road. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
I was going to talk about that. I think when you're standing on Obispo Road, like in front of the fire station, when you look across, your line of sight is about even with the pavement of the highway.
Yeah.
There's big berm.
It is. And these renderings we did to give you an idea of what these would look like. These were not designed to provide visual resource justification. The second alternative we have here just essentially flip-flops here in plan view, the library kiosk and the restroom. So we may have a central planter here with, I'm sorry?
And it rotates at 90 degrees.
Yes, yes. So the kiosk faces the parking lot with a central planter, potentially with benches. We want to make sure that we're screening these structures wherever possible, but we also want to provide opportunity for folks to sit and read a book. The renderings, you can see there's not a huge difference from the parking lot, just because there are structures in the same place, they're just slightly different structures. From the highway, there's a potential elongation of the view obstruction, but it's relatively minor. And we can, if this arrangement is something you like, as we refine it, we would finesse these ultimate locations of these a little bit. And as Group 4 provides specific feedback on the restroom structure, because that's under their purview, we may continue to make those adjustments, or adjustments that would reflect that also.
Which one do you, as our design guru, like best?
I would not present any of them to you if we didn't think that they would work. There was some that we came up with initially that we discarded because they might have met all the criteria, but they were a little weird. Like putting this over by the parking area at the Village Green, it works, but it was weird.
Okay. So, you don't see that one of these is better from a design standpoint than the others.
No, I personally, I don't. I think there's merit in both. Having easy pedestrian access, easy vehicular access to both of these structures, I think is important. We don't really know right now what the capacities of the restrooms will be as far as electricity and the other utilities there. So there's, of course, we'll have water, but locating the outpost in this portion of the park, I think there's a potential for extending those utilities out, having another access point. For instance, public Wi-Fi is something that the district wants to provide in the area of the community center. Having this library outpost away from the community center, located here in the central part of the park, may be a way to spread that out, especially with the parking lot and the picnic area right there. Which is not to say you couldn't put that Wi-Fi, a remote repeater in this, at the back of the restroom if the kiosk goes by the community center. But it's a way to kind of stretch out, locating in the center of the park is a way to maybe stretch out some of the intensity of use. Somebody wants to pick up or drop off books at the community center when a class is letting out, when a class is starting. It could be a little chaotic, but the same could be said for a birthday party at the park.
To check with you, Tom, what I think we want comments from everybody, but you're looking for basically a guidance, a decision on where the kiosk goes at this point.
Yes.
So I thought we should maybe just have comments in general from the board. We can take then public comments, and then we can come back to that library decision. Okay.
Yes.
We're ready.
I have one more thought, which is we're planning to close the parking lots down by the restrooms at dusk. But the one up by the community center may stay open later, especially if there are events there.
Is that a plan?
And that's what we always talked about, is dawn to dusk access.
done, the park opened on to dusk, I didn't know that we made a decision on like a gate.
Well, that's a question.
Neither did I.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm
asking.
having a security plan at some point.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we don't want people in the park after dark, so it makes sense to close the parking. Maybe not all of it, maybe not that angle in parking, but it just seems.
How are you gonna close the park? I mean, the park is open from all sides. How would you possibly close the park? People can park on Highway 1 and walk down to it.
Yeah.
Well, we
You
can't,
could close the parking lot.
but we can also put signs that say park closes at dusk, which many parks do. And that gives you the ability, if there's any kind of problem, to have someone come and deal with it. And so if you are stating that your park is closed after dusk, after dark, then you don't have a problem with nighttime activities, which I think is something this community cares about.
Well, in practical terms, you can close the parking lot, but I agree with her. You can't close the park.
No.
And you would only know if, there was a complaint about people being in the park.
But you can officially close the park.
Yes, you can post the signs and then maybe you get the sheriff then to come because you're officially closed. Yeah. But I think the closing the parking lot, when people can still park on the street and walk into the park, and how much the parking lot does, except keep people from parking in the parking lot overnight.
Yeah, so it does, it does that.
Yeah.
And it also sends the signal that we don't want people in the park. Well, someone has to actually physically close it 7 days a week. They don't limit it. So. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge unless it's electronic.
Half the ways to do that right now. Offer parking. So.
Anyway, so let's go on with board comments on the renderings of the park.
I'll go. Tom, the renderings are beautiful, very realistic. They even have fog. That's nice. First, I really think we need to drop the EL from the community center sign. It's not because it's Granada Community Park and parts of Miramar and all of Princeton. And
I need to let Dawn know that.
Okay.
She put all Granada on there in her first rendering, but it should be Granada.
Yeah. Okay. As far as the kiosk, I think I would favor the location nearest the community center, because I envision a lot of this interaction with it being quite quick, and that's where the nearest parking is, and people would be able to go drop off or pick up books really fast and get out of there. And it does sort of concentrate the buildings in one area, and I think there's pluses and minuses to that, but since we don't really know what this is going to look like yet, I think that the convenience of public access is really important.
I will, I'll follow up Matthew. I think I agree with you for a couple of reasons. One is we may elect at some point to put a gate across the parking lot further down by the park, but not at the community center. People could come and use the library kiosk whenever it's convenient to them, on evenings and so on. I also have talked with Boys and Girls Clubs about potentially putting some of their after-school programming in the recreation center, which I think is a nice synergy with having the library kiosk right there if we're having after-school programs for kids. So I see a synergy with the recreation center. It's going to be a building kind of no matter where you put it. If we were going to go for view 2, if we we're going to go by the restroom, I would go for view 2, where, as you said, from the street, it's basically behind the restroom. And I also would prefer it not to be between the playground and the restroom. Anybody with a 4-year-old knows the shortest distance from the playground to the restroom is a good idea. And so I would set it back, but I think just for synergy with other activities that may be happening at the recreation center, that would be my preference. I think the renderings are gorgeous. I think the effort that you put in to show the view of the sweep of Half Moon Bay and the beach behind it is really compelling, and I hope it really helps us get some really nice prints. Jen or Jill?
So, do you want to take it?
Well, I see everyone has these beautiful drawings in front of them. I'm just wondering how I missed them.
They were just.
I don't see it in my.
Yeah. Hope has.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
If you didn't hear me, Hope, Tom just brought them tonight. Hope has a set for you.
Okay. So I'm kind of guessing just based on seeing the slides real quick. I see your point of view of having it by the community center for easy access, but I also think it would be kind of nice to have it in the center of the park by the playground, because then, if you're a parent and you're watching your kids and, you kind of get curious and go, well, what is this thing? And it gets you interested in the library. And I think that's kind of nice. But either way, I see benefits. I'm not really pro either side. And Hope, can I come pick those up tomorrow?
Yes, definitely. Or I can drop them off.
I think, I have nothing to add on being said, someone is going to feel, except for I did appreciate the traffic. But I think that just add a little bit to what Cindy, I think for me, from a function design standpoint, it just feels like people will be gathering and staying, spending most time in the recreational center and having an overlay there so you can walk in and out. It's closer, it's easier to access. It feels like more functionally and wanting to get redoing there versus what you would be doing at the park. Nestled inside a building or sitting inside on a chair or outside on a chair. So that would draw them from good options. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're all great. It's a great job doing them. I agree that by the community center makes sense. And the other nice thing about it is that there was already, it looked like a need for a wall there to provide a separation. So you're not adding a complete additional thing. You'd be substituting this for that wall. Mm-hmm. I like that idea. So the less stuff we have.
Brings the patio.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of, I think it's going to be more convenient for people at that parking.
Public comment. Thanks. Just opening up to members of the public, if anybody else would like to comment on the pictures you've seen or the library. Fran, your hands up first. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Fran, I figure we can see your name, but there, now you're unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, hi. Well, that was quite revealing. Those were beautiful pictures. When I first saw it, I thought, where is this? So I really liked the first shot that showed a lot of green and park space, but the other pictures showed an awful lot of plants all over that people aren't going to even be able to walk through or go through. I'd rather see more green so people can use this, like people have parks where you can walk all around, the kids can run around and play in. The kiosk, is the kiosk also the library? It was kind of hard to follow.
Yes, it's like a vending machine library.
Oh, okay. So maybe could you put the set of pictures up on the walls and so we can maybe come in and see during the day or something?
Yeah, and we'll also, Fran, on the website.
Pardon me?
We'll put them also on the website.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, those were some beautiful shots, and it looks like it's coming right along, and I'd still like to see more green than so many plants. And something else, you know, with Mid-Coast Community Council, we've been talking a lot about evacuation plans and shelters. You know, when we started this park, no one ever dreamed of having to worry about fires and floods and everything else that's hitting us now. And so we've talked about the county helping to build a community center on the coast, but we're hoping they double. And maybe this one, not that I want you to start from scratch again, but I'm wondering if if it's reinforced enough to be a shelter if we needed a shelter, and not have all those plants all around it. And maybe more steel and glass and stucco or cement siding so that it can be a shelter if needed for the community. We may need to have double use now. I don't know. That's one thing I was thinking as I saw these pictures now. And as we've been talking on Mid-Coast Community Council about all these issues. So that's something to think about. Anyway, thank you very much. They are beautiful pictures. I hope we can see something coming soon.
Thank you, Fran. And just to follow up on one of your points, one of the other people we talked to while we were working on the plan for the Community Recreation Center was Dave Cosgrave, who's our Emergency Operations Coordinator for the Mid-Coast, about the Recreation Center being a respite center during power outages or during emergencies. And he was very excited about that. He did ask if we could add a ham radio antenna, and we told him we would happily incorporate it. And it's particularly if he could help us get some extra funding for that, for the Recreation Center. Any other comments from members of the public? I'm not seeing any. I'll come back to the board just to give a consensus of guidance to the team on the location for the kiosk. We'll just go around one more time on your preference.
I'll say the first one.
The community center.
Same thing. So, you know, if there's a reason it turns out that you need to move somewhere else, the other two some quite okay. But I think my preference is
Dr. Grant.
Do we need to decide it tonight? Because, I mean, couldn't they be alternatives in the CEQA document? And then the public could decide?
I don't know the answer to that. I think you're aiming for getting your submission set.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they could. I don't know if either location is going to present significant challenges to the degree that they'd be modeled separately in the CEQA documentation.
maybe we could ask our CEQA consultant.
I suppose, yeah, Horizon would probably be best to provide a firm answer to that.
Don't you think the county would, when they review the CEQA, are going to say, come on, tell us where the buildings are going?
Well, I mean, that's typically the case, but there's plenty of projects that go through CEQA with not every aspect nailed down, or with multiple alternatives being modeled. Now, typically that's in the EIR level, not necessarily at the initial study level, but at least that's been my experience. I'm not the expert there. So I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make to the secret documents. I think it would make a difference to to the overall site.
Are we done with this part?
We're just looking, I'm just doing kind of a poll on your preference for where the kiosk is.
Oh, by the community center.
I do appreciate actually the point that Director Grant made about if it's near the playground, you get kids curious about what this big box is. I started to get nervous about having to make sure there's Wi-Fi and electric and so on there to basically set up another site. So.
Plus, I don't think you're gonna be able to really access it without a card. So, I mean, kids with the library card would be able to go over there and access it, but.
I think the point Greg was making is more so that it would be, oh, well, let's go to the library. Like it would inspire curiosity.
But you could look through the windows and see the books. You can't take you.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. Though. It would just inspire them to be like, oh wow, you can get curious. What's a library? Like have that conversation with your kids.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, that's true.
With Director Grant, go either way, and for lean toward community center, I think we should be able to give guidance to the center. Ray, did you have a comment?
Yes. We started out putting this, Tom and I and Hope were talking, and the community center obviously was our first idea that, it's easy. You have the access with the Wi-Fi. As an engineer, I'm always concerned about the cost. So it's easier to bring the utilities, including Wi-Fi, to that location. Parking wise, there's parking available unless there's events at the rec center. So the rec center seems to be the first logical choice. We wanted to also give you other ideas about, how about we put it in the park, and Tom came up with the 2 locations at the park. That would be a little more costly unless you do want to have Wi-Fi in that area. So the rec center probably be the easier choice. The access would be easier. It'd be more visible, and the utilities would be cheaper to bring in. So I agree. Rec center seems to be a better choice. The other 2 choices, we were kind of wondering what it would be like if we have anything, available in terms of, other options. So, and we wanted to give you different options, not just say, okay, this is the only place.
Well, if anybody, all the approvals we have to go objects to an extra building there, we do have the other options as potential backups.
Yeah, well, I want to be clear about what the next steps are, because it's not, we're not deciding this, or this is the direction you're providing. We really need to work with Group 4 specifically on this, because there's no better way to ruin a working relationship than for us to put something enormous in front of an architect's building. So we want to make sure that we work with them to integrate this into this area. It may be that with those conversations, there are better ways. Maybe the wall shifts a little bit. Maybe we don't need to have such an elaborate canopy because we already have this other structure there. There's ways that we'll be able to work with and really rely on their architectural input to integrate this well, to make sure it's accessible, visible, protected from the elements, and overall functional and successful. So that would be our next step, is to say, hey, this is the direction the board wants to go. To Dawn and Carolyn, let's work this out and figure out later.
So at this point, the library is a conceptual agreement, and this is a directional.
It's just data to provide that.
Director Grant, I saw that you had unmuted. I didn't know if you had another comment.
I do not. My computer is going to run out of juice, so I'm scrambling for my cord.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think we've given you the direction.
Absolutely. No, this is great. Exactly what we're looking
It's gorgeous. And I echo Fran's point, if we can put the pictures, up on the wall so people can come see them, that would be, I will put something on next door as soon as they're on the website to draw people.
Is this the largest we can get, or can you print something a little bit bigger? Yeah, maybe we'll get bigger ones.
24 by 36, that size, bigger, but I can do as big as you want.
Okay.
I mean, you saw the plan.
Yeah.
6 feet long if you want.
We can decorate the whole room with those.
Okay,
Yeah, but I'll work with staff on that.
okay, great. Thank you.
I have a comment for Ray. Ray, as the noise study is just starting, I think when you see all the plants, particularly the ones that are paralleling Highway 1, it seems conceivable to me that could have an impact or an effect on how much sound goes both directions. And so I think we should furnish the noise people with at least some of these drawings.
Uh-huh. Yeah, noted. That is an interesting angle. I will talk with the expert that conducts the background check for the current baseline, and then talk to them about what the additional planting would do as well. See if that has any effect on it. Thank you.
Okay.
Mentioning that. We'll follow up on it.
Our next item is our guest Alex Gibbs on the proposal from Townsend to support our efforts to seek grants. And there's a great proposal from Townsend in the agenda pack. I hope everybody had a chance to review the capabilities. If Ray would, Alex, like just to give us a quick overview.
Yes. I'm happy to say that Alex is here, and he could give us an overview of what Townsend has been doing. They're doing some great work in Sacramento and also in the Bay Area. Alex and I met several times about this project, went over the type of grants that are available that we could apply within the next 12 months. We talked about the possibility of two types of approaches. One is as a retainer on a monthly retainer. And the second one would be to employ them as consultants per grant application. If you do as retainer, we could do as many applications as possible, as much support as we need. That would be at the rate of $3,500 a month. If we do per grant, depends on the grant and the amount of support that each grant requires. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Alex and let him explain both approaches and give a little background about the process and the company and himself. Alex?
Great. Thank you so much, Ray. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam President and board members, for having me this evening. My name is Alex Gibbs. I'm the grants manager here at Townsend Public Affairs. What I'd like to do is just give a really brief overview of our firm, what we do, some of the work that we've done on the coast side, how we feel that we can help the district, and then happy to answer any questions about both of those specific project scopes that were proposed. So first, Townsend Public Affairs is a lobbying and grant writing firm that was founded 25 years ago. We have offices in Southern California, Sacramento, Washington, D.C., as well as the Bay Area. I am the grants manager for our firm, which means I oversee a dedicated team of grant writers who do nothing but submit applications on behalf of public agencies in California. We also have the lobbying wing of our firm that does advocacy in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. What this allows us to do by being a firm that offers both of these services, it means that we can work on legislative directed spending requests, which for brevity and the rest of this presentation, I'm just going to refer to as earmarks. But we can work on earmarks for our clients in both Sacramento and DC, as opposed to just traditional grant writing. And we find for districts such as yourself, that at times can be really advantageous when you're trying to get projects funded that are over $10 million, because oftentimes grant funding alone won't get you there in that entirety. A little bit about myself. I previously worked for the California State Senate before moving over to Townsend Public Affairs roughly 10 years ago. I've been a dedicated grant writer for the last 7 years here at our firm, and I am the Parks and Recreation expert here at our firm. I work closely with CSDA as well as CPRS, the California Parks and Recreation Society. I'm typically their go-to for grant writing and funding expertise. I will be giving a webinar for CSDA members on Halloween, actually, called Grant Writing 201. It is a follow-up to the Grant Writing 101 presentation I did earlier this year for CSDA members on how best to secure grant funding from the state of California. So that's just a little bit about my background. I would be the main point of contact working with you all. We previously worked with the city of Half Moon Bay, and you can see in our proposal, since we have been working with the city, we secured nearly $10 million in earmarks through the federal and state government. And then we have secured several $1 million in competitive grant funds as well. What we would be doing for the district would be a combination of those things. The retainer fee that Ray had mentioned at $3,500 a month is really competitive. I believe we initially proposed $4,500 a month, and then Ray really twisted my arm and we got down to a fee of $3,500 a month. But typically our fee for special districts of your size is $4,500 to $5,500 a month for both the earmarks and the grant advocacy, as well as support in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., should you be taking trips to either capital. We find that that typically is the most bang for your buck because, as Ray said, there is no limit on the number of applications that you can submit. These can be the smaller grant opportunities through the county where maybe it's just $50,000, $100,000. We're more than happy to work on those. We're also more than happy to work on your statewide parks program grants that can get you an upwards of $5 million at that fee. For the per project fee, our rates are $5,000 to $15,000 per grant application, depending on the amount of time that it would take, the effort, et cetera. So for some of those smaller grants, that would be definitely at the lower end. Some of the larger ones like statewide parks, where you would actually have to do community outreach that we would be involved in, would be a little bit at the higher end. Ray, did you want to say something?
Alex and I have worked at City of Half Moon Bay for several years, and I can attest that because of their help, we got quite a few grants, the ones that I was working on. And of course, Alex worked on other grants as well and secured those. So we have been very happy with the services that Alex and his team has been providing us. Very timely and very efficient. Especially in areas that the city staff, or in this case, the district staff, is not familiar. Alex has a lot of background in the state and all the information that's needed for a lot of these grants. So, the help that provided us was immense and very appreciated for those projects.
Well, I can tell you that, Alex, you're very highly recommended by Matthew Chidester, the city manager of Half Moon Bay, when I've been looking for recommendations. I have a question. I love the lists that you provided because I've been very excited seeing, a city got $8 million for a community center. There's Half Moon Bay got almost $5 million for Carter Park. And so those were the sorts of numbers I'm hoping to see. For our little project. I noticed that you have the state and federal data. Is there opportunity with other types of foundations or private foundations aside from the state and federal government opportunities?
Yes, certainly. We apply for private and foundational funding opportunities as well. Some of the ones that would be applicable to your project, for instance, I know Cliff Bar, if you're familiar with those protein bars, they have a foundation that funds outdoor recreation and nature centers and things of that nature that would be really in line with your park project. Additionally, regional funding opportunities through Bay Area Council of Governments or through MTC, through various regional opportunities. We definitely apply for those as well. And those, you typically will have a better opportunity to receive funding because your demographics, you're only competing against similar cities, either on the coast side or in the Bay Area, as opposed to across the entire state, where sometimes the coastside demographics don't stack up as favorably. So we certainly apply for all types of grant applications, not just state and federal. But I am glad that you mentioned the $8 million earmark for the community center, because that was one that I personally worked on. It was the third largest earmark in the California state budget this last year, and it was for a city with a population of 12,000. So I certainly wouldn't say that that is the norm. I typically caution clients that really $5 million is typically the max. But we were very fortunate in working with multiple members this year to secure that $8 million earmark.
Great. Comments from the board?
I think we should sign up for the all-inclusive retainer. I'm completely 100% in favor. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Likewise, we should do the all-inclusive retainer, because at the other rates, they work on 3 grants and it's more money than this. So, yeah.
Right. Grant? Just watch.
Can I go next? Can someone go in front of me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know how we would do it without it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I also prefer the standing retainer, because I wouldn't want, well, 2 things. I wouldn't want us to have to keep coming back saying, okay, we could pitch for this and this would be the cost, and have to keep approving new amounts over and over. Also, I would like you to go as far and wide for as many as you can go for, given the amount of funding that we'd love to get. So I wouldn't want to feel constrained on where to send you looking for grants. Director Grant.
I have a few questions, Alex. Thank you for coming. So I'm comparing the 2 tables. One is all-inclusive retainer and the other's per project fee. And it looks like if you do the all-inclusive retainer, the difference is you will help us with craft a strategic funding plan and identify research and monitor grant funding opportunities. But if we go per project, then we would have to identify those on our own. Is that correct?
No, we would still identify the funding opportunities that would be best suited for you and make you aware of those at the beginning of each month. In either case, we would send you a monthly grant memo at the very beginning of the month that shows upcoming funding opportunities. We try to give you as much notice and lead time for the funding opportunities that we're aware of, because we know some of these grants can take a long time. The biggest difference between the 2 tables, I would say, is the support with the earmarks at the state and federal level. That's not something that we offer on a per project basis, because it is a year-long process. Typically, those get submitted in February, March, or April of the year, and obviously make it through the state budget process in September, October. At the federal, it's a little bit more of a question mark, this year being a great example of just the uncertainty in Washington, D.C. So that takes a little bit longer than 12 months at times.
And then for your monthly fee, how long generally does it take? I mean, how many months will you be working on this? Does it take you 3 months to get our opportunities in place, or does it take a year, or what?
There's currently a grant opportunity, the Urban Greening Grant, through the California Natural Resources Association agency, that's open right now. It's due in November. This could be one that we submit on your behalf if we enter into a contract. The biggest hurdle, I would say, is that you need to have a plant palette for your project already finalized. The presentation earlier this evening was fantastic, and a lot of those renderings and materials would be really helpful in those types of grant applications. I just don't know if the project is far enough along in the planning process to make a commitment for the type of plantings that we would be utilizing. But in the event that we had that information, we could apply for grants as soon as next month. However, there are some funding opportunities that don't require that level of planning to be completed that are coming up in the near future, and we would be happy to start working on those immediately as well.
So you could also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
But I was going to say, if I could sort of build on and rephrase maybe Jill's question. Is your typical engagement on the month-to-month retainer, is it typically 6 months, a year, 18 months, or does it depend on the amount of funding we're looking for over time? Because I know some grants you can apply for every year, right?
Yes, certainly. So I understand that obviously the park is your number one priority. That is my area of expertise. So we would be looking to apply until essentially we have enough funding to construct the park. But I also understand that you have other funding needs that are outside of strictly parks and recreation that we could potentially help with down the line as well. We really like to utilize a team approach. One thing that I didn't mention earlier, while I will be your day-to-day point of contact and I am the parks and recreation expert at our firm, we also have water policy experts, transportation experts, et cetera, that we would love to bring in for any of your water quality needs, sanitation needs, transit needs, anything else that just kind of tangentially touches the work that you all do as a district. So I hope that answers your question, but ultimately we would work until the project was funded. I don't know if this was a year-long contract or if it was a month-to-month, but typically we enter into a 1-year contract, at which point it goes month to month with a 30-day no fault cancellation on either party.
And in my experience with this, it takes a long time.
Yeah, I was expecting it to take at least a year. And probably we'd get through that year and then we'd be reapplying for some things we didn't get the first time. But we need, upwards of probably $10 million. So more than that. Well, I was just thinking about what, from our first analysis, we could finance a certain amount. So we need probably at least 10 million beyond what we could finance.
Certainly. And being optimistic, I would hope that we would have funding secured from the state budget by this time next year. The budget process would have ended and the governor would have needed to sign those bills by now, 12 months from now. So we're hoping that that would be, several $1 million at least to get us started. And we would have submitted several grant applications between now and then. A lot of parks and recreation opportunities open in the spring, Q1, Q2, that we would be submitting that we are already aware of that would be coming up for the park.
Chuck, did you have a comment? Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're muted. He doesn't know. Okay.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a great proposal. So I think your board should go ahead with it. I mean, we got Ray on board. We get Alex on board. We'll just keep moving strong ahead with the park project.
I have a couple more questions.
Go ahead, Jill.
Okay. First of all, do you have experience working with Caltrans that you can incorporate projects? Because Caltrans has a right-of-way right next to our park.
Yes, we do have lots of experience working with Caltrans. In fact, the transportation expert at our firm that I had mentioned, his name is Eric Bronson. He previously was the assembly chair of the transportation committee. He also used to work at Caltrans and still has several relationships over there. We understand that they are certainly not the easiest agency to deal with. We have relationships not only statewide, but also specifically with your Caltrans division that we could utilize. A lot of the projects that we worked on in Half Moon Bay were along PCH and had lots of different Caltrans issues. So we would be more than happy to utilize those to your benefit. One of the things that I was talking to Ray about was next steps, and it could potentially include a trip to Sacramento for board members and general manager. Caltrans would certainly be one of the agencies that we would like to meet with should your board be interested in taking that trip to Sacramento.
Okay, and how much work?
Jill, can I just comment on something on that? Which is that we have a really good relationship with the RCD, the local RCD, Resource Conservation District, and they have a really good relationship with Caltrans, and they've got $1 million worth of grants, more for flood control projects and things like that, fire abatement, but it's also just one more advantage that we have, I think.
Fantastic.
All right, go ahead, Jill.
I was going to ask, how much work does GCSD put into it? So you're offering a lot of things to us. What do you expect from our board?
So we've offered two different tracks with the retainer. One, obviously the earmarks that I'm referencing quite a bit, as well as the grant writing. On the traditional grant writing side, we act as that extension of your staff and really try to take as much of the workload off of their plate as possible. The only things for parks and recreation projects that we really can't do on our end are the renderings that we saw earlier this evening, finalizing, determining what the budget is going to look like, those planning documents that you already have in place. But when it comes to the actual grant writing itself, we handle all of the narrative, all of the letters of support, reaching out to your elected officials and various stakeholders. We actually submit the application on your behalf. We are the points of contact when the state, the feds, private organizations reach back out. So we really do try to do as much as possible. Should you need community outreach as part of these, we've done surveys and hosted them on our website. We've traveled to communities and hosted community meetings at your facilities. So when it comes to grants, we really try to relieve that grant burden as much as possible, because we understand that your staff have a lot of different things on their plate that they're already doing, especially with a smaller district. They're wearing a lot of hats, and we know grant writing can be cumbersome, and we don't want that to bog your staff down. That's also one of the reasons why we try to give you as much lead time as possible when we know funding opportunities are coming up. On the earmark side, we will provide you that roadmap. We will coach you and make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. But a lot of that is political relationships between your elected officials and the other elected officials, your assembly member, Berman, your state senator Becker, your Congresswoman Eshoo. The asks would need to come directly from you. However, we would draft those letters for your signature and have you provide those letters, and then we would handle all of the follow-up. But that initial request needs to be an elected official to elected official request.
And that's part of the monthly fee, or is that on the other side? What you just talked
I apologize. You cut out. Could you repeat that?
So you said the last part where you would draft the letters to our representatives and send out the letters and then follow up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is that part of the all-inclusive retainer or both of them?
That is part of the all-inclusive retainer, referencing the earmarks portion of that. That would only be included with the retainer. For the project, it would still include the letters of support, where we would be reaching out to your electeds to solicit their support, but not providing the same level of support on legislative directed spending.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I think you said earlier, Alex, that the earmarks have been maybe opportunity for larger chunks of money. So that seems to me to be something important, since that's one of the things that you work at on a retainer that isn't in the project by project, grant by grant. So I'm more convinced now.
Do we need a motion?
I first want to go to public comment.
Sorry.
But Bill isn't here to remind me, but
Can I ask you a question?
go ahead and ask a question.
With regard to Caltrans, the wastewater side of our district is connected to a treatment plant down in Half Moon Bay. And we've learned, at least I have just learned recently in the last few months, that there's a Caltrans recreated or totally created wetlands very near that treatment plant that Caltrans did with as off-site mitigation for impacts elsewhere. And I wonder if you had any experience with that kind of thing.
Yes, there are programs. The name of the program escapes me at the moment, but essentially you need to have a local road construction project, anything that would increase vehicle miles traveled. And it doesn't have to be your project. It just has to be somewhere within your district. And it has to be within the last 10 years. And the state will provide grant funding for you to offset those vehicle miles traveled that are being increased through mitigation. It doesn't even need to be necessarily at that project site, just somewhere within the larger district's vicinity. And it would allow you to do anything that would increase greenhouse gas reductions. So planting of trees, creation of open space, creation of trails that would allow for active transportation between school, transit, recreation, et cetera. And I know as soon as I stop talking, I'll remember the name of that program, but we have worked on those. Yes.
Thank you.
We have any further comments from the board? We have any comments or questions from members of the public? Not seeing any hands raised, but we'll come back to the board where we need a decision or a motion.
I'm happy to make a motion that we enter into a contract with Townsend Public Affairs for an all-inclusive retainer at $3,500 a month.
I will second.
Any further comments?
I would like to make a comment on the wording. So I agree with it. I absolutely want to get on board, but I'd like to specify it's for an amount of, I think it was 42,000. That's a year at 3,500 a month. Is that right?
Well,
Right.
So, and then it goes to month, where we can cancel after a year if we wish to. Is that correct? Yeah.
So that, and I'm fine with amendment to the motion.
I just want to be specific.
Yeah, that's fine.
so to restate, the motion is to enter into a contract with Townsend Public Affairs for an all-inclusive rate of $3,500 a month with the initial 1-year contract in the amount of $42,000 and thereafter month to month.
I'll resecond.
Any other comments from the board?
Ready? Roll call.
Roll call.
Director Grant,
Yes.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Randall,
Yes.
President Marsh.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Hey, thank you very much. Very excited. We look forward to a great deal.
Thank you, Alex.
Great, thank
Excited
you.
on working with both of you.
And thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Alex. Members of the board, appreciate it for your support.
All right, we're very excited. So do let us know whenever you need an elected to do something. We'll jump on.
Perfect. We look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
I have Senator Becker coming on the 29th for a meeting, so
Chat him up.
we'll chat him up and maybe we'll have something ready for him.
Perfect.
Chat him up.
When was that you said?
29th, 4 to 6. Back in February. Dibs, Jose Dibs.
Okay, just on the wrapping up the recreation, put in the memo several recreation program events ongoing. Anyone to highlight, Hope?
Just the movie night went really well, and it was especially because we did have to reschedule. I was really pleased. We had over 100 people. It was kind of hard to tell once it got dark because people kept funneling in even after. So that was great. And there's a couple of quick updates. Coastside Land Trust, which the board had passed previously, they put in their request for this year's funding. So that's in warrants for tonight. The skate ramp resurfacing is almost underway. The materials have been ordered. They're being shipped right now to Scott Maneri, who is going to be the person in charge of putting them in. So once he knows when that's going to be received, we're going to have to post some signs to let everyone know that the park will be closed and the skate ramp will be closed for a while. And then the final ramp jam occurred on October 7th. It seemed like it went well. I don't think the attendance was quite as high as they had hoped, but there was a lot going on that day. So
It seemed actually they had a lot more tents, maybe more vendors, maybe more in the parking lot, because there were 6 or 7 pickup trucks that were parked on the Vernon Strip in the area that had been there for construction a while ago. Somebody was using it for overflow parking, so I think we want to be clear with them for the next one on just how much space they can use and how much they need to leave.
yeah, definitely.
That's, well, just to that point, I would like to put on the agenda for our next meeting, Antoinette, if you could maybe start to build on this. I think we need to have a policy for use of the park, because for the second time, there was a private contractor, a road contractor with a big tank truck, a bulldozer, a pile of gravel, and a bunch of equipment there. And Nora was great about dealing with it, but And then we have at least one big trailer that's parked on the parking lot overnight with that giant, I don't know what it is there, trailer behind the big van. And then there's the green truck with the white trailer, and that guy thinks he has a right to park there. And they're over on our property. I got the,
They're beyond the easement.
they're beyond the easement. And so, and if somebody parks there 24 hours for 3 days, it's fine. Well, you can report them to the county as an abandoned vehicle. So that blue and white van keeps coming and going. They go down to Johnston House and they park there and use the bathroom. So, I mean, there's just a lot going on, and I think it would be helpful.
I think there's sort of two separate issues. I mean, I did start a conversation with legal counsel yesterday about what exactly we can do. And I did reach out to the sheriff's office as well. Their hands are somewhat tied, but certainly they are aware of it and they're going to work with us. I think trying to get some signage.
Back. I don't think we can solve this, but
yeah. Then the separate part would be where we're actually giving permission to use the space. And we do have a use agreement that was in place for the ramp jam. I would like to, at the next meeting, probably bring back some sort of application process and just general process, including insurance. Exactly. And that's in the use agreement as well. And that was required of the hard drive and Alice to do that. So Alice actually.
Materials.
We talked about that too. He was very apologetic for that.
It's fine. It's no big deal. I just want to comment. First of all, it's very exciting to see Coastside Land Trust program starting again. The kids are just about to clear their garden area for this year, and then mulch should be put down, all the cardboard and everything, and then anyone who was interested in what they've been doing, if you walk down the multimodal trail, it's just to your left. It's right in the banking right outside of the school. And you can see the last 2 years native plant gardens there. So it's a really great program. And then I went down to the ramp jam at like 6 o'clock or so. It was winding down a bit, but they had some music going and it was quite loud. But nobody complained and it was wonderful. It was really good, cheerful music. We had a hamburger from one of the vendors. It's delicious. It was just, everybody seemed really happy. It seemed like a really positive event. So, things continue to go well. Let's continue to let people do things there.
And they do a great job cleaning up. It's cleaner when they leave than when they got there.
Yeah, and we should also just recognize that Recology has been super helpful with those sorts of things. They always bring the bins over. Same with at Quarry Park for the movie night, and then clear them out for us first thing on Monday. So very helpful.
My comment at the ramp jam, because I could hear the music. I was enjoying the music at my house, but it was getting very dark. Yeah. So they planned their times 2 to 8 for each of them, but by the time we got to early October, it was pretty dark at 7 o'clock and there's no lights at the park. So we just made later in the year when we adjust their timings for the sunsets.
Yeah, and I took a bunch of pictures that show. It was really nice. I took a couple of pictures of the skateboarders against the sunset. Oh, it's really cool. It's nice to see people using that property in a nice way.
Yeah, and just imagine how nice it'll be when it's not just a dirt lot.
Right. When they're on the village green.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on Parks and Recreation? Move on. We have a number of approvals. Next agenda item: review the Recology rate increase. And as noted in the agenda memo, this is a year when it's an index-based rate increase. There's not a lot of negotiation to do for it, right, Chuck? It's just.
Yeah, no, this is the standard thing we do each year, and we did Prop 218 notice a couple of years back, so that'll take us through the calendar year 2027. So it's really for board information, just so you can see. And you can see, the gas prices went up 24% and change, and that's what's driving a lot of this.
Okay. Do we need a vote or a motion on it, or it's just for information?
It's just board information, yeah.
Because it's already been approved as a contract.
Right, correct.
Any questions on this one?
And Hope got a little schooling on Prop 218 process. So schooling sounds tough. I mean, she learned a lot about it.
And Hope, you gave us, with the agenda on our place settings, another copy of the rates. Was there?
There was just a change. The line item for green waste pickup, it said it was just once every other week, and it's actually once a week. Yeah, and that Recology supplies those bins. They're not to be supplied by the customer.
Oh, we just started the Delia.
Yes, Delia came back and let us know. She read the agenda packet very thoroughly.
That's nice.
Oh my God.
Okay, any further questions or comments on the Recology rate?
Well, I was just visiting Southern California, and they don't have any of the composting, or they don't even seem to have a very good recycling program. I think it's good that we have to.
Really? That's state.
I think they have recycling
Mandated by state law.
You know, here people put the wrong stuff in your bin.
Well,
They
they
put it yeah, and they put it on the side. You don't know what they just
Yeah.
sticky. No.
Yeah, we have both actually in Carlsbad.
Oh,
Or all three. See, we have three.
trash, recycling, and green.
Yeah, we have 3 as well.
Before I move on, so I have Bill sitting on my shoulder. Any comments from the public on the report? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3. Consideration renewal for the office lease here at 504 Avenue Alhambra, 3rd floor. It's quite interesting that they offered a 3-year lease with 2 3-year extensions, since we were worried they might want the space. Any questions or comments on that? Matthew, you had a comment, question.
I did. There's no provision in the agreement as written for possible early termination. And when money starts pouring on us and we get the park ready to go, we might want to move into our new offices before the end of 2026. But that's really optimistic, I understand, but it's also, seems to me very normal for a rental agreement to have a clause about early termination.
I would want us to have early termination, but not necessarily them regardless.
Well, you write it and they'll go for it.
I mean, I think the feasibility of Picasso being out and us being able to get that building to a point that we were ready to move in before November of 2026 is very unlikely.
Right.
And that's why we went ahead with the plan for a 3-year lease. If we do want to go back with any changes, at this point, we'll have to go back in front of the Harbor District Board. They did just pass this version of the lease at their meeting this week. So, and that's fine. We have a little bit of time. So if we did want to ask for a revision for early termination to be included, we could do that, and we would just have to bring it back again, but they would have to bring it back to their November meeting.
And if we wanted to terminate early, we would go to their board and ask if we could terminate it early. So
I don't think that they would have a lot of issue with that.
Whose board?
The Harbor District. I mean, we can ask them to terminate early.
I don't understand how this is working. The document's weird because it's got the Harbor District in some places and then both of our districts on some pages, and it's the Harbor District in control of the property owners.
they own the property.
They own this.
Yeah.
They bought
Yeah. Well, no, I was going to make a comment about public agencies, but I won't. Okay.
Since we are one.
Yes.
move approval.
I'm okay if it doesn't have the termination. I think we probably, if we need to leave early, we can ask them to let us off early, and if they don't, then at most it's going to cost us maybe 3 or 4 months. So
We'll sublet it.
Yeah.
we'll submit it.
There's no provision for that either.
Yeah.
That's
That was just a joke. So.
outlawed.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on Any?
I would also just like to point out that the one issue Bill and I are concerned about is how broad the provision is in section 14, disclaimer, risk of loss. It's just, it covers a little too much, more than we're comfortable with. So as of right now, I believe Bill is still working with them on that issue.
Right. So you'll notice in the way that the wording is in the agenda, it's for the board to approve. How did I phrase it? So, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think as long as the board can approve, then Bill can go back. And if we need to make any changes, again, it will have to go back to the Harbor District again, but.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and it depends on how their general manager treats it. You know, we talk about this approving it in some substantial conformance subject to, you know, approval by legal and obviously the Harbor District. So, you know, this indemnity section is wrecking more agreements in the past 3 years because everyone's tired of getting sued or threat of anyway.
Yeah, and everybody wants protected from everything.
Right.
We have a motion to approve the agreement subject to the legal counsel finalizing the terms of legal counsel approval.
So moved.
Okay. Seconded. Matthew, Director Randall. Any other comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Okay. Director Grant?
Yes.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
President Marsh?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, consideration of independent contractor agreement for general manager services, which is our renewal of the agreement that brings us Chuck with DUDEC. Chuck, you just made a couple small changes to what was the language we've been using for 18 years.
Yeah, yeah. And we actually added an indemnity language, speaking of indemnity, about 3 years ago. And it was not easy because there's a new regime at DUDEC who wanted protections as well. So basically all we did was on duties, we just changed it from general manager to other as needed management services, because sometimes Paula works on stuff down at my office, Jeff Pape, that kind of thing. The people post our online agendas. So it's not a big number, you know, it's a half an hour here and there, but it just encompasses more. And then my rate increased from $195 an hour to $225, which averages out to about 4.7% a year. Yeah.
And it's flat for 3 years then?
It's flat through 3 years, doesn't increase. I'm not a very good consultant, so.
Negotiator. I already told you about the one historical typo.
Oh, the GSD, yeah.
GSD. First line of I5.
Section 5, yeah.
Other than that, anybody have questions or comments? No. Saying none, any comments from the public? Saying none, do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the contract. We call it an extension.
Second.
Independent contractor agreement for general manager services.
What she said. Yeah.
So moved by Director Clark, seconded by Director Grant.
Okay.
Further comment? Seeing none, roll call.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Yeah.
President Marsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
We look forward to it, Chuck.
The next is the engineer's report. Was in the pack. Put that part out for me. Any questions or comments on the engineer's report?
Well, he reviewed the SRT report about failure of the Montero force main. But we went to that meeting where we had to make a decision without any recommendation from our engineers or and so forth. I sent him a email during the meeting and got back to me and said he didn't have any concerns. But this is, you know, it's an $18 million project. And I guess maybe I need to reach out before the meetings to make sure that we get some feedback from the project engineer. But even the description in here is pretty minimal. It doesn't say, you know, give us any feedback on what his review found at the meeting. So that would be helpful, all I'm saying. And looking forward to the standard specifications and details.
Well, and I've weighed in on this before, and I'll do it again because I can't stop myself, but I don't like these review meetings. It puts a burden of responsibility on us, and I've said 1,000 times, we're not running SAM, Sam's running SAM. And if Sam can't get a competent engineer, and I believe SRT is competent to design a project that we can do, you know, that's an issue, because if you read this, it kind of implies that, hey, our guy signed off on it. Well, you know, they reviewed the Princeton pump station as well. I didn't sign off on that, certainly. So this has been a point of contention, I think, for a while. And, you know, when Barbara was president last year, I think I told her we should just stop going to the meetings. And she kiboshed that, probably for good reason. But, you know, we should make things clear. Yeah. Well, we should just make things clear that, once again, this is not approval. We're not design engineer. It's just bad business. It sounds like it's good government, and it's the exact opposite. It's pushing the responsibility of a project off onto the 3-member agencies instead of where it should reside, which is SAM.
So they came to us with SRT's memo with 4 recommendations, of which 2 met the requirements and 1 did not. 2 did not. And there was quite a bit of information in the staff report from SRT as to how those recommendations were made. But I'm not an engineer, and we were being asked to provide direction as to which one. I mean, there's a whole another thing that happened that we'll talk about later, but that's my question is, I guess you're saying that they shouldn't be asking us to make that decision. They should just bring it.
It's what I said to, yeah, what I say to, when I talk to Kishan, I say, Kishan, just so you understand, you're just bringing me information, and majority of the time it's information that's going to be on the board meeting that next Monday that we're not looking at this time. I think I told you about the Princeton pump station when that just happened. So, you know, it's Sam's running SAM, like I said, and you're not an engineer, and I have more knowledge, obviously, but I'm not an engineer. But even John Rayner, I don't want him signing off on things. This is a straightforward project. As John joked to me, he's only done about 50 of these in the past, 30 years.
So I hear that it would be useful for him to review and maybe to give feedback to our members of the SAM board, but not for the purpose of signing off and saying it's approved by the agency.
Yeah, exactly, because I'm going to keep beating the Princeton pump station to death. I didn't agree with the preliminary design report whenever they did that 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't agree with the timing, so I don't want to sign on to something like that, and John Rayner doesn't either.
This seems to me more like just information. I mean, Sam, obviously, it does make those decisions. It's for their assets. And I think it's actually good that they ask our engineer, the member agency engineers, to have a look at it in case they happen to know something about this district that has not been considered or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think it's that bad, but I just want people to understand that this is a SAM project designed by SAM engineers, and we'll take a look, but
Well, it's just be helpful to know, if nothing else, that they didn't see any major problems with it, which is what he told me.
absolutely, yeah.
But I felt as if, you know, that was very helpful to get that email from him during the meeting, say, no, he thought it was a good report. That's all, because it's a lot of money.
And, you know, and it might, you know, I did read the report, but, you know, it looked like a decent report. That one's a little more straightforward. It had 4 different alignments, and that one was easy. This is a bigger issue, you know, with other projects that aren't quite so straightforward.
Thanks.
Any further comments or questions on the engineer's report? Any comments from the public on the engineer's report? There was a hand.
Aaron had his hand up.
Yeah, pull that down. Okay, I'm going to move on to consideration of approval of SAM request for funding to replenish the reserve funds in the amount of $50,739.80. We did talk about this at last meeting, and we're just looking for the requested funds so that we're going to get that we were signed.
But the only issue is there's not specifically any decision of what happens if, as they have indicated, insurance will cover all these costs, and whether we will pay back that money or whether I think the plan is that there will be a vote at the SAM board about as to what happens with the funds. It can be allocated to some of the projects that are already over budget, or if it should be returned, because the JPA says it should be returned.
That's my only issue with this too. That it's not at all clear what will happen when and if they get money back from insurance and from FEMA. And it's also not clear how much money there might be. We heard very optimistic estimates in terms of percentages and actual dollars, but those have changed. And so we don't know how much reimbursements from those 2 sources we're really going to see. And I know that Sam will have an idea about what to do with the rest of the money.
Well, it does say in the reserve policy, the board may establish 1 or more project funds into which annual revenues will be deposited over the determined number of years to pay for capital.
But that's different.
Yeah, it is different. I was thinking when I read the first sentence that it was going to be something different. But it sounds like the board can vote to say we've got all the insurance money and fund this money, or Greg can propose to do something different if the board doesn't actually agree.
Right. So that's what they have said. I think what Matthew's saying is that it's not spelled out.
I have a different thought on the reserve and how it's managed, and I'll reserve that for the SAM report because it's not necessarily relevant to the approval.
And also, as usual, I think the presentation of this table is hard to understand, and there's they don't until you look at this, it's not at all clear that the operating reserve bundles both things together, the emergency and the operating reserves.
Well, that's kind of what my comment is going to be, is how those 2 funds, which have different policies associated with them in terms of how they're used.
Right.
They are sort of lumped together and managed the same way. And I just have a suggestion to the finance committee that I'll hold after you pass this on. How that might be done. My only put with this is it's a required balance on the first line and it's a suggested balance on the next. But I think it's a high policy, it's a required balance.
All right, well, I will move for the reserve of the funding. Well, not the request, approve the funding to SAM to replenish the money. Yeah, well, I move approval of the requested amount of funding to replenish the reserve funds. Here's the amount of it. Perfect. I move approval of $50,739.80 to be paid to SAM to replenish the reserve funds. Second.
The emergency. Appreciate it.
Any
Repair.
further comments?
I'll put the amendment to say emergency reserve funds.
Seeing none, please roll call.
Director Grant,
Yes.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Randall,
Yeah.
President Marsh.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now the requirements for recording press items.
Want to do it?
Okay, we've had a couple of meetings, including, I went to 2 meetings this week. Big thing is still are the things that the consent decree, the ERF consent decree requires Sam to do. And that Half Moon Bay, they've changed their terms, but not their strategy. They now say they are going to defer on, they want the project, their long-term force main replacement to go forward. They approve that, but they defer on.
But they did approve it.
They didn't approve it.
Correct.
But they defer on making any actual approval or any commitment to pay their share.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be coming up.
They were so smug. They were just, and they were saying, it's your project, you two. It's your project, Montero.
Yeah, to which we always need to respond. No, it's not our project. It's a SAM project. Yes.
They're the only JPA that is currently in force.
Right. And so that's, there are other things that, that do go through the meetings, but that's by far the big and most important one.
Well, and then in terms of the design process, there was consensus that option 3 was the best alternative.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room was in agreement with that. It's the one that goes for, does not have the environmental issues that could slow things down. So it's as much as possible in the same alignment. And there will be some environmental impacts, but it's going down the side of the road, so it's not going to be a lot. But not only did we not approve it, we didn't provide direction to move forward because Catherine Slater-Carter didn't want to do that. So Sam's just kind of stuck. There's nothing they can do. It's like,
the SAM board did approve the money for initial design by SRT, and SRT has gotten to a step and they haven't spent all the money.
right.
And I came out of that meeting unsure what the status of that now is.
I don't think,
Whether SRT is management going to tell SRT to keep working on this, or it didn't sound like it.
there is more approved money. So,
Yes.
but without, and there was bickering and it was name calling and it was just
It's so good to get this over with.
I can't wait for the lawsuit to get settled. So that was really pretty much all we did at the last meeting, right? I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, that's all we did.
So
In the previous meetings, we're having these 32-minute meetings.
because half everybody says we abstain.
Or we defer. We defer to you because it's your
They
project.
abstain.
I keep saying, where do I find in the JPA
Deferral.
that process?
Yeah.
But I think until, there's a judgment and hopefully it will be soon. Yeah, they're protecting the position in their lawsuit rather than doing their board jobs.
Yeah.
So if anybody hasn't seen the discussion, the hearing, coastside buds has a really nice look to it. So it's easy to find. Someone knows it. Oh my goodness.
I give you a suggestion for the finance committee.
Yes, sure.
So looking at the operation reserve worksheet, and looking at the reserve policy, they really are, although they're lumped together into, we need, X, $2.5-ish million total on reserve. It really is specifically $1.25 million for emergency, which is specifically for repair or replacement due to a specific event or a future planned thing that has to happen now. And the other is an operating reserve, which can flux because you don't spend the same amount of money every month.
Right.
So what I'm paying attention to just below that is how the money is distributed in accounts. And it's all mostly in the general accounts.
I know I asked him about that. Why they don't put more in late?
Well, my suggestion is if this 1.25 million is specifically for things where they should say, we have something that qualifies for this fund, that 1.25 million really should be a reserve. And if it's a reserve, it should be sitting in the LAIF, in part because now even CDs are getting 5 to 5.5% interest.
I said
So to leave it sitting on
Yeah.
general account.
Yeah.
I think maybe this should be a sort of a policy decision that the emergency reserve will sit in LAIF, because one of the things that's supposed to happen is the interest on that money is supposed to accrue to that fund.
Right.
And so if you could now have the opportunity to be getting, $5,000 a year in interest, that's less that you have to dip into. But I don't know how you could track it unless you segregate it and keep $1.25 million in LAIF so that all of the interest there.
And you could get late money out in the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to go the other direction, Nancy, because I did this 5 years ago and you just signed my agreement. So I got safety for 60 days. The reality is, and I'm going to use big numbers, it's 1.25 million for the emergency reserves and 60 days of operating reserves, which call that, 450 grand. So 2 months of that's 900. So they should have 2.15 in reserves. Darn near every dime of that should be not in LAIF, well, that's all you have, but it should be in CAMP or the Cal Trust we put our stuff in. Because there's no reason not to. Like someone just said, you can pull money out of LAIF, so you keep 50 grand in loose cash in a checking account. And then when you write a whole bunch of checks for 300 grand, you pull it out of LAIF.
Yeah.
Right. But, this wasn't an issue when we were earning 0.35%. But now, like you said, Nancy, they're earning 5.2%. Where the money sits is immaterial to what the funds are. Because I had this discussion with Kishan, I don't know how many, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, where they said, well, all the money in the checking account is our operating reserve. And I said, so if you moved it all to LAIF, it wouldn't be there anymore? It doesn't make sense.
Be there within a day.
Well, what he said.
It's all loose cash towards the reserves. Yeah.
What he said was that they needed to keep the money for payroll because their payroll is so big. And I think this is where my issue with the way Sam is finished is catching up with them, is that they budget for all these infrastructure projects. We pay 1/12 of that every month. They have that money and then they overspend, but they never adjust. And they just do it with cash flow because the money keeps coming in from the agencies. And now they're getting to the point where they still have millions of dollars of projects that are partly done and they don't have the funding for it. There's just no wiggle room.
They're rolling.
They're using that. And I brought it up again, I think even for last week. So I was watching, Debbie Reddy said to me, we all know you're right.
But they catch up because of that way of operating over time, to catch up to actually have the reserve as a reserve and not as a rolling fund as the money comes in. Would take a decision really starting from the finance committee to say, we're going to change the way we account for things.
Right.
And it's going to cost everybody this much to actually make the reserve sit in a stable place like a reserve. I mean, you know what your payroll is. That's very predictable. And so you put that in late, and just 2 days before your payroll, we move it into the checking account. It doesn't need to sit.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm back to keep all the money in there and pull it out 2 days before you need it, like you just said.
You need it.
Payroll's no different than any other bill.
They say,
Yeah.
is this 1.1 million sitting in a bank account?
Mm-hmm.
So which is only insured up to $250,000.
Well, actually, districts have special protections on that. It's
Okay.
collateralized at 110 grand, but you're giving up $50,000 a year in
Potential
in
interest.
Right. And if I asked you all, how much loose cash does Sam have on hand by reading this memo? Could you tell me?
Nancy's done the math already.
Well, there was someone that said cash on hand, but the cash on hand includes the reserves, and to me, those are two different buckets.
It's all cash. No, it's all cash on hand. So I have no idea what they have cash on hand.
Well, and the other thing is, this year there was a point where Half Moon Bay didn't pay for they claimed their money was sent, but it didn't get there. You know, who knows? But there was 2 months where they didn't get Half Moon Bay's money, and then they got really low on funds. So,
Yeah.
you know, they only have 2 people and a consultant doing their financials. So,
So I ran a medical lab with a $30 million budget, and I had one person and an assistant doing my thing. I think that the challenge now is that because that has been the way of operating for so long, it isn't a reserve, it's cash on hand, which is called a reserve. And if you really wanted to create a reserve, you'd have to come up with $2.5 million to really put it in a reserve.
well, also to be fair, right now, they really did use the reserve for the storm damage of $1.6 million. They used the reserve for that, and now they've been paying down the rest. There really is no reserve money now. And so they're using other money to put in there that they want us to fill it up. And one of the solutions that's been talked about, and Kishan's talked about this, is, and his accounting team has talked about this, which is to move infrastructure into a separate fund that you can roll over, and you can do multi-year accounting on, and that would really be great.
Yeah.
But our attorney and the Montero attorney didn't really want us to go down that road, and while Half Moon Bay was questioning, you know, whether they had to pay for this and everything else. So hopefully that's something that could fix a lot of things when the lawsuit finally gets settled. And I see Aaron has a comment.
Yeah, I would like to let Aaron make his comment. Aaron, if you don't know, is Sam. Hi, Aaron, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate this opportunity. Just kind of a couple thoughts. Sam has just been awarded last year and the year before an excellency award for how well they maintain their finances and take care of it. And so I think that's something that we need to remember, that Sam has done well with its finances, and anybody at the facility is willing to talk about what's going on with the finances or the operations or anything else. And I do very much appreciate Barbara Dye reminding everybody about the huge disasters that happened in the early part of the year. They were very costly. Prices have gone up. As you guys have seen, gas jumped 50 cents in a week. That's insane. And so with the cost of everything going up and the long hold times, people need to be understanding and realize that Sam has won awards for how well it's done with its finances. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I'm sorry, Aaron, I have to say this. If you look at that financial report, it's pretty. It's pretty. And it's got really nice graphs and charts, but it's by no means an exhaustive, look at the financials. It's a nice report that really sums everything up well that's happened during the year, but it's not a deep, detailed look at the finance.
I think it's less about the reporting and more about your approach to keeping money for certain things in certain buckets.
and having enough done, and not going over projects by 100%.
Go ahead, Aaron, let you respond.
I mean, it's kind of tough to be able to sit there and say something like that, because if we're trying to explain what's happening with the budget, but then we're being told in the same thing that we should be making our own decisions, it's a little difficult situation there. And so for me, I sit there and I'm looking at this like, hey, this is an awesome opportunity for us to explain and understand better what's going on. We can talk and understand it, and hopefully be able to come to a point where we're all working forward to make the coast side the safest that we can, and be able to get us to the point where everybody's happy financially.
Aaron, since we now get to ask any kind of questions we want, why is it that so much money has been sitting in the checking account? And this has always been this way, 20 years that I know. Why is so much money kept in the checking account when it could be a better interest earning account?
So for me, I'm not part of the finance department. I do not know the exact details with that. I can tell you what I do know, and that's about all I can do.
Actually, I really appreciate you being here to listen and ask questions. Welcome.
And I did
But that's basically one of the questions we've been asking. So you could put it in life, and it could be making money for you.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah. And then I did point out at the last meeting that the first quarterly report, operations, which is really, that's why it would be nice to take infrastructure out, isn't really segregated because it's also mixing with collections, which doesn't make sense, but was $350, almost $400,000 over budget operations, which means on an annual basis, that would be $1.5 million. And we're going to have all these huge infrastructure costs. So to have operations that much over budget can be a problem. When I asked, he said that there's insurance payments that come early in the year that make that operations higher. So I am looking forward to seeing the numbers in the next quarter, because we got to save our money for the big infrastructure needs. Sam has.
No, it's a tough business because you think you're running a day-to-day operation and then something big happens. So I appreciate that. But there are ways to do it. So it's just more transparent what money you've got. It's been, as you always say, we pay money for a certain project and we never know if it actually gets spent on that project.
No, we do know that now because we're tracking it. But we don't know how the rest of that's going to be project's going to be paid for. Because at the end of the year, all those numbers go away and things get capitalized, and
it's hard to track.
It's really hard. And there's just not enough money.
I won't be labor. I think my main point was we should have a lot more money in life and a lot less in a checking account.
Yeah. Okay, I also went to a board ops meeting on Tuesday, which is, for those who don't know about the committee set up at SAM, it's one director from each of the member agencies. And the topic was preparation for upcoming winter storms. So we all know that the emergency that had to be paid for happened the end of December and into January of this year. What are they doing about preparing for that eventuality again? And I came away pretty optimistic. Sam's doing a lot.
Oh, good.
They're building higher berms around the treatment plant, higher than, well, they showed a photo of last year when the berm was about this high. And they had the water was up this far. And then next picture was most of the plant is flooded. So they're putting up higher berms. They're putting up a concrete sack wall along what's called the Kehoe Ditch, which is it's a drainage ditch that, well, they call it the Kehoe watercourse that drains something like 1,200 acres of, mostly on the other side of Highway 1. And there's a fellow, Jimmy Benjamin, who was on the Planning Commission for a long time. He owns the house nearest to the SAM plant, and he has done a lot of study on this. And I wish that they listened to him more because
It's really smart.
he's really smart, and he can demonstrate that what they're talking about, taking out more vegetation so the water can run through faster, which will cause more erosion and build up the banks farther down, so that will eventually block all the water. And so he is suggesting that this is going to have to be a big project to. They need to divert some of the water that's collected and comes into that water course to go elsewhere, and eventually into the ocean, but not right next to the plant. They have boosted their supply of sandbags and have them at the ready. They have, if you don't know this, SAM can shut off the flow from the two northern districts during high water events. There's no
Does that benefit Half Bay?
Gee, does it? There's no way to turn off. There's no way to turn off any of the flow from Half Moon Bay because they don't have a storage facility.
I'm sorry.
Like these R2 districts do. So to compensate for that,
Our two districts do not have them, SAM has them.
well, they're in our districts, yes, and they take our flow.
Yeah.
SAM has arranged to have 4 of those huge blue tanks to be able to store overflow that comes from Half Moon Bay.
If they have to read.
Oh, how big are they going to be?
I don't know how big those things are, but they're before we had the storage out here, they used to sit on the parking lot at that Portola pump station here, and they're like taller than that building. They're huge. I think they're 50,000 gallons, maybe.
So they're adding that at the plant.
Yeah. And I wasn't sharp enough to say, well, this sounds like another benefit for Half Moon Bay. Sam's paying for it, which means we get to pay our share. Anyway.
I've never seen any money for that.
They have been planning and practicing with staff for setting up all of these mitigation efforts in a timely manner. They are noted, they already have, but they're going to continue to notify the staff that there will be possible need for overtime and people to be on call, which means they can't leave the coast side during heavy rain events. And that there may be, even if it's really bad, like last year, there may be emergency call-ins, even if you're not on call. And this doesn't include the entire staff. It's operations and maintenance. It's not, the finance people or administration or anything. So it's not everybody that works there. And being on call currently boosts, they get a $3.50 an hour boost on their wages for time spent on call. And the Ops Committee approved that when they tell people that they're going to all now be people who are not going to be regularly on call, but may be called in an emergency, they'll get another $3.50 an hour. So it's a small fiscal impact because it's not all the staff and everything. But so, but then it's my understanding, there'll be the same restrictions that if you're told that you may get an emergency call, you basically can't go anywhere and you have to have your phone with you at all times. So, so they have thought about what will happen if there's another fantastic storm like there was at the end of December and beginning of January, and they do have plans. They could probably handle a similar storm. That was a very unusual storm, but unusual is all the weather does these days. So we'll see what happens. But I thought it was good that it's obvious that Sam, management and staff have been thinking about these things.
Being proactive, that's correct.
Right.
Which is, I have to say that the SAM staff are very devoted. Teaching does a good job with the staff morale, and they really do care, and I have a lot of confidence in they're doing a good job.
Actually, Sam had a booth at the Huntsman Festival. Yeah, and well, I've seen them actually on Main Street and every festival, so I think it's nice that they reach out to the public. And Tim posted something on Nextdoor today in Spanish, I think, inviting people to the tour to the open house. Yeah.
There's an open house November 18th, at the plant. And finally, the August flow rates on which our costs are based, Half Moon Bay came in at 61.77%. We're at 18.3. MWSD is at 19.2. So our flow, it's stayed about steady, but Half Moon Bay continues to slowly creep up as a percentage.
And collections takes care of all of the 3 agencies, cleaning and problem solving, and month after month there's very few problems.
We haven't had a spill in 12 months.
There are also, for the month of August, there wasn't a single call out for blocked lines or toilet overflows or anything in our district. And that's it for Sam.
Thank you. Great job. Sorry.
Any other? After 9 o'clock, I start to be into a pump. It's like grabbing about introductions. Any other comments on the SAM report? Board or public? Now we'll move to the consent agenda, which includes the September 21st, 2023 special and regular meeting minutes, the October 2023 warrants, and the August 2023 financial statements. But anyone like to pull any of those items? Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan and Clark, any other comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
President Marsh?
Aye. Any next, then I have committee reports, any? None. We have an attorney's report.
No report, Madam President.
Thank you, Antoinette. Number 13, general manager's report. Check case dark. Administrative staff report.
I'm going to report other than what's on the
report. Future agenda items, and Barbara, what you mentioned about use of the park, I think we have on the future agenda items. Yes. Okay. Anything else? If not, then we are adjourned at 9:18. Thanks, everybody. There is one here. I feel fun. I